Dr. Mark Changizi here with your Science Moment. So today is the day after the assassination attempt of Donald Trump. And as you know, for the last 8 years, 10 years, Trump has been labeled and painted as literally Hitler, right? That's the viewpoint of the left about Donald Trump. And, you know, Donald Trump is a New York Democrat. He's really neither left nor right. He's just sort of has his own sort of notions of common sense that lead him here and there, depending on his intuitions. He's not, you know, deeply principled like a philosopher. He's not left or right. He's just a New York Democrat. But anyway, the point that I want to point out is the supposed literal Hitler, right, that Donald Trump is, that kind of talk, which has led to so much hatred towards the deplorables that might potentially back him or aren't sufficiently leftist, and the hatred towards him that have led to lawfare against him and to accusing him of a coup d'etat, the most laughable kind of charge. These kinds of claims that he's literally Hitler. Now, what I wanted to point out was that when COVID happened in March of 2020, if you thought that Trump was literally Hitler, you know, when there's a big emergency, a perceived emergency in the whole world, and the United States in particular is up in arms saying there's this big emergency, do you know what people who are literally Hitler might do? People who are literally Hitler, what you're worried that they might do is use an emergency, a perceived emergency, as a pretext for acquiring power, right? For getting more power. That's the last thing that you want if you're worried about literally Hitler being in charge and having more power, is an emergency that they can leverage to get more power, right? So what happened in March and April was that the left were demanding and agitating for Trump, literal Hitler, to do more interventions, to do more authoritarian measures, to violate civil liberties more, right? That's what they wanted him to do. Now, if you thought that he was literal Hitler, would you want him to have these kinds of powers? Would you be pushing him to do that? No, right? They don't actually believe that he's literal Hitler. I mean, the socio-political community has come to justify and create all the justifications for why he's literally Hitler, right? But it has no real arguments. These are all post hoc justifications. They're all BS. And they show their BS on their sleeve when you look at their behavior in March and April, early parts of the COVID emergency, where people were happy and asking him, demanding that he be more authoritarian. Now I want to ask you, what did in fact Trump did? Now, those of us who are more libertarian are upset about what Trump did. He could have been much more freedom-oriented. He could have been, you know, not recommended sort of social distancing and masking amongst the places where he did have power, and, you know, the military and government itself, right, and in national parks where he did. And he could have had recommendations to the states that didn't recommend doing that. But what he in fact did to first order was, he says, I'm not going to authoritarian this. I'm going to let the states decide. Is that the behavior of literal Hitler? No. Right. He was never a literal Hitler. He's a New York Democrat. And this kind of hatred is just traditional socio-political hatred of one's opposition, post hoc justified by sort of narratives which spring up, and the members come to believe it. But it's laughable, but it creates an environment where it is justifiable to do anything to such unclean, evil, literally Hitler people. And that was your Science Moment.